The sugar industry has been lying to you for decades. They took something that worked perfectly as medicine for over 1,000 years and turned it into a white, crystalline poison that kills more Americans every year than you can imagine. And now they're selling overpriced pills to fix the problems their own products created. While medieval sugar was so valuable that doctors prescribed specific doses to heal open wounds and fight deadly infections, the sugar you buy today at the supermarket for a few dollars goes through 17 different chemical processes that destroy absolutely everything that made it beneficial to the human body. The difference isn't just in flavor or color, it's what happens inside your body in the first 15 minutes after you consume each type. And when you understand exactly what they did, when exactly they did it, and why specifically they turned medicine into poison, you'll never look at that white package the same way again. A respected apothecary in Venice in the year 1342 charged the equivalent of $300 today for just 1 pound of pure brown sugar. Why would anyone pay this absurd price? Because it worked? Because it cured real illnesses? Because the all-natural extraction process preserved active medicinal compounds that modern doctors only rediscovered in rigorous scientific studies in the 20s and 19s. Today, you walk into any Walmart or Target and buy 5 pounds of refined sugar for less than $5. And if you think this represents human progress, wait until you find out exactly what they took to lower the price so much and increase profit so much. And if you want to continue discovering knowledge that history is purposely buried, subscribe now to Medieval Histories and activate that notification bell to never miss another revelation that could literally change your health and that of your family forever. Because what I'm going to show you in the next few minutes is not an internet conspiracy theory. These are facts documented in historical archives and peer-reviewed scientific studies that the billion-dollar industry has spent fortunes trying to hide from the public. Facts about how our medieval ancestors used sugar as a powerful natural antibiotic when the word antibiotic didn't even exist in the human vocabulary. Facts about when exactly they took away the medicinal properties and for what specific economic reason. And facts about how you can identify today, right now, whether you are buying natural medicine or chemical poison when you look at that endless supermarket shelf. 75% of Americans consume more than 3 times the recommended daily amount of sugar every day without exception. But here's what absolutely no one tells you honestly. It's not the sugar itself that's slowly killing you. It's specifically what they did to it during the industrial process. If you feel constantly tired even after sleeping a full 8 hours, if you have that annoying mental fog that doesn't go away even with 3 cups of strong coffee, if your skin looks older and more worn than it should for your real age, if you have those sudden dips in energy in the middle of the afternoon that make you run desperately for another cold soda or another sweet treat, you're not imagining non-existent things. And it's definitely not your fault or lack of willpower. Your grandfather ate delicious desserts every day of the week and lived until he was 90 years old without diabetes, without serious heart problems, without morbid obesity. Her grandmother cooked with sugar regularly and never needed artificial insulin. What radically changed was not your family's genetics. It was the sugar available on the market. Today, the average American consumes a staggering 152 pounds of sugar per year. Does it seem like a lot when you hear that number? It's because it really is an absurd and dangerous amount. But the real problem is not just the astronomical quantity. It's mainly the completely different quality of the product. Every spoonful of that perfectly uniform white powder you add to your breakfast has gone through an industrial chemical process that turns it into something your ancestral body doesn't recognize as real food. Your pancreas goes into a biological panic. Your insulin spikes to dangerous levels. Your liver is completely overwhelmed trying to process. And within just 2 hours of consuming, you're intensely hungry again, desperately wanting more sugar, completely trapped in a devastating, vicious cycle that the food industry has intentionally engineered with scientific knowledge. Because the more you compulsively consume, the more you biologically need. The more you need physically NTE, the more they profit financially. And while this happens repeatedly, your body is paying a huge metabolic price that you will only really realize years later when the doctor finally gives you that scary diagnosis that could have been completely avoided with correct information. But it's not your individual fault that you binge eat sugar. Your human brain was genetically programmed by millions of years of natural evolution to instinctively seek out sweet, because sweet meant quickly available energy and immediate survival of the species. The fundamental problem is that the sweet treat that nature generously offered was naturally packed with essential fiber, vital vitamins, necessary minerals, and digestive enzymes that made absorption slow, gradual, and completely healthy for the body. The candy that modern industry has artificially created is a concentrated chemical bomb with absolutely none of it. It is pure, completely isolated sugar, concentrated to levels that have literally never existed in nature in millions of years, and your body simply hasn't evolved to know how to deal with it properly. So, when you feel that uncontrollable and urgent desire for sweets at exactly 3 in the afternoon, When you physically cannot stop eating after the first small piece of cake? When you sincerely promise to start the restrictive diet on Monday, but by Tuesday you have given up completely frustrated? It is not a lack of moral willpower or weakness of character. It's brain chemistry being actively manipulated by entire decades of intentional industrial food engineering. You are fighting against billions of dollars invested specifically in making products addictive. You're up against teams of scientists who have spent entire careers figuring out exactly which combination of sugar, salt, and fat most intensely activates your brain's reward centers. You're fighting an industry that literally tests products in focus groups using MRI to see which formulations cause the most desire, and then has the nerve to call you lazy when you gain weight, of blaming yourself for a lack of discipline when you develop diabetes, of selling you diet products as a solution when they created the original problem. Before we dive even deeper into this disturbing story, leave a comment below right now and tell me, from what specific city, what state, or what country are you watching right now? I genuinely love knowing where each unique person in this amazing community comes from, this special community of smart people actively seeking valuable knowledge that has been purposefully buried by corporations. Leave your full location below in the comments, because what you are about to discover in the next few minutes will completely and forever change how you view sugar, how you buy food, how you feed your family for the rest of your entire life. You will learn with historical precision exactly when they transformed natural medicine into chemical poison, who specifically made it happen, for what exact economic reason they made this transformation, and most importantly, how you can effectively protect yourself today with conscious choices. And, perhaps most importantly, you will finally understand why medieval apothecaries confidently prescribed brown sugar to treat infected open wounds, while well-meaning modern doctors urgently tell you to cut absolutely all sugar from your diet immediately. Both are technically correct in their recommendations, but they are talking about completely different substances that just share the same misleading name. So leave this comment right now without delay, and let's discover together a scientific and historical truth that radically changed my entire life when I discovered it accidentally, and that will profoundly change yours too when you understand it completely. We are precisely in the year 1423, in a busy apotheca located right in the historic center of Florence in Renaissance Italy. The golden morning sun pours generously through the tall arched windows and carefully illuminates dark wooden shelves filled with hundreds of hand-blown glass vials, each meticulously labeled in elegant Latin with perfect calligraphy. The ambient air smells intensely of dried herbs hanging from the ceiling, sticky Mediterranean tree resin, and something mysteriously sweet that you can't immediately pinpoint. Behind the sturdy counter of polished dark oak wood, a man of approximately 50, wearing a linen apron permanently stained with assorted colored substances, works with absolute, unwavering concentration. He's bothering me all a solid block of brown and surprisingly hard against a rough granite stone. The rhythmic sound is almost hypnotic, filling the room. Small, shiny golden crystals continually fall into a deep red ceramic bowl below. This focused man is Matteo Di Stefano, an apothecary extremely respected throughout Florence, whose honorable family has been in this profitable business for exactly 3 full generations. The hard block he is patiently grating is pure sugar, but it's definitely not just any regular sugar. It is a perfectly shaped cone of artisanal brown sugar that came from lands far away, transported carefully for endless months, from exclusive plantations in sunny Sicily, where the sugar cane was lovingly cultivated under the intense Mediterranean sun, harvested delicately by hand by experienced workers, and meticulously processed using ancient traditional methods that date back directly to the wise Arabs who brought this valuable knowledge to Europe many centuries before. Matteo weighs each precious grain with absolute precision on a small, delicate, polished bronze scale. Exactly 1 ounce. Not a grain more, not a grain less. Because this expensive medicinal sugar won't simply sweeten a festive birthday cake, it will actively heal a serious wound. On the wooden table next to it, there's a young woman of around 30 years old tightly holding the small hand of a frightened child of perhaps 7 or 8 years old. The thin boy has a deep, nasty cut on his right arm, the direct result of a hard fall while playing carelessly near the river Arno. The open wound was carefully cleaned first with local red wine, but Matteo knows perfectly well from painful experience that without proper treatment, the deadly infection can easily kill in a matter of a few days. He's seen this happen tragically too many times over the years. That's why medicinal sugar specifically. He mixes the aromatic golden powder with a precise small amount of pure dark local honey and an exact pinch of fine imported myrrh powder. His experienced, stained hands work with the natural dexterity of someone who has done exactly this thousands of times over decades. The resulting thick paste has a gorgeous, deep amber color and a perfectly thick consistency. He applies it generously and carefully to the boy's bloody wound, who grimaces painfully but bravely does not cry loudly. Then Cover everything carefully with a completely clean, fine white linen cloth. Total cost of this unique medicinal application, the equivalent of approximately 45 current dollars just for the medicinal sugar used. The concerned mother pays immediately without a second's hesitation because she knows from family experience that it really works effectively. In exactly 3 days, the wound will begin to visibly close, with no yellow pus, no inflamed redness, no dangerous fever. In just 1 week, it will be completely healed without scars. Matteo meticulously writes everything down in a thick book of detailed records. The exact date, the patient's name, the precise dosage, the specific method of application. These valuable records will eventually be passed on to your firstborn son, who will one day completely take over the family estate. But as Matteo works intently this afternoon, he has absolutely no idea that exactly 532 years in the future, in 1955, something devastating will happen that will turn this precious and effective medicine into cheap commercial poison. He does not imagine for a second that the sugar that takes entire months to produce by hand and is literally worth a fortune will be cruelly replaced by an artificial white chemical powder, produced industrially in a few hours and sold for mere cents. He does not imagine that the medicinal knowledge that his honorable family has carefully preserved for entire generations will be arrogantly dismissed as the ignorant superstition of primitive people. And he certainly doesn't imagine in his worst nightmares that the same serious wounds he effectively heals with medicinal sugar today will be caused directly by industrial sugar in the distant future. On the wooden shelf behind him, there are only about 12 precious brown sugar cones, your entire stock complete for 6 full months. Each individual cone represents literally weeks of human hard work. Careful planting, hand harvesting, laborious extraction, controlled boiling, natural crystallization, hazardous transportation. The slow artisanal process naturally and effortlessly preserves the essential B vitamins, regulatory chromium, vital magnesium, necessary iron, and literally dozens of other mineral compounds that make this brown sugar a genuinely effective medicine. As he carefully puts away the ceramic bowl and cleans the rough grating stone, a well-dressed rich merchant hurries into the shop. He wants to buy a large quantity of sugar specifically to sweeten special imported wine for an important, luxurious banquet. Matteo shakes his gray head firmly. He only sells sugar exclusively for legitimate medicinal purposes. Sweetening luxurious food with something so valuable and medicinal is criminally wasteful in his professional opinion. The merchant persistently insists, generously offers double the normal price. Matteo firmly refuses again without hesitation. He has genuine patients who completely depend on this limited supply. A young child with a persistent cough that hasn't gone away for weeks. A respected elderly man with a severe ulcer on his leg that won't heal. A young pregnant woman with worrying extreme weakness. Everyone urgently needs pure medicinal sugar. Everyone implicitly trusts him to provide absolutely pure quality without criminal adulteration. Because Matteo knows with absolute certainty that if he mixes the wrong substances or uses sugar of dubious quality, people can die painfully. And he takes this moral responsibility more seriously than literally anything else in his entire life. On a small side table sits an old handwritten medical recipe book, passed down from his grandfather to his father, and now to him. Page after page of detailed instructions on how to use medicinal sugar for different conditions. For wounds, mix with honey and apply generously twice a day. For coughs, dissolve slowly in the mouth with specific herbs. For postpartum weakness, add to nutritious broths. For burns, create thick paste with egg white. Each recipe has been tested for generations and refined with care. Each recipe saved real lives. And every recipe will eventually be lost when industrialization sweeps away everything. And here is precisely where modern science finally caught up with ancient medieval knowledge and definitively confirmed it. They were absolutely and completely right all along. Dedicated researchers at the prestigious University of Wolverhampton in England published a revolutionary study in 2011 that genuinely shocked the entire international medical community. They rigorously tested traditional pure brown sugar on wounds severely infected with bacteria, resistant to modern antibiotics, deadly strains that typically kill hospitalized patients because literally no conventional medicine works effectively against them. The surprising result? Traditional brown sugar completely destroyed resistant bacteria in a whopping 68% of cases tested. Not only did it prevent bacterial growth, it completely killed the organisms. But it's definitely not inexplicable magic. It is pure science that our intelligent medieval ancestors used daily without understanding the exact molecular mechanism, but perfectly understanding the consistent practical result. I will explain exactly how it works biologically in a way that absolutely anyone can easily understand. Imagine that pathogenic bacteria are essentially like little microscopic balloons of water. They desperately need moisture to survive, grow quickly, and reproduce exponentially. When you generously apply pure brown sugar to an open wound, Something absolutely fascinating happens on a cellular level. Sugar has a physical property called osmosis. He literally pulls water from absolutely everything around him. It's as if each individual sugar crystal was a microscopically powerful little sponge. Bacteria literally quickly wither and die because all the vital water inside them is violently sucked out through the cell membranes. But there's much more happening simultaneously. Traditional brown sugar naturally contains active hydrogen peroxide. Yes, the exact same antibacterial compound that is in the regular hydrogen peroxide you use to clean household wounds, only in a biologically perfect concentration, released gradually and controlled as the brown sugar slowly dissolves. This creates a chemical environment where pathogenic bacteria simply cannot survive biologically, and it even has significantly more benefits. The artisanal medieval production process naturally preserved rich molasses in the final sugar. This dark molasses is extraordinarily rich in powerful antioxidants, essential minerals, and bioactive compounds that dramatically accelerate natural healing. So you had 3 simultaneous therapeutic effects working synergistically: active destruction of bacteria by osmotic dehydration, continuous sterilization by natural peroxide, and acceleration of curing by bioavailable nutrients. An all-natural triple-acting antibiotic that worked effectively on serious wounds that today would absolutely require expensive hospitalization and potent intravenous antibiotics. Now, let's talk specifically about what happened historically. From the specific day when natural medicine became industrial poison. In 1843, an ingenious man named Norbert Rillieux officially patented in the United States a revolutionary sugar refining process using industrial vacuum evaporation. The initial intention was genuinely noble, to make sugar significantly more financially accessible to the working masses, but the end result was absolutely devastating to public health. This industrial process systematically removed everything that made sugar genuinely medicinal. First, it completely removed the nutritious molasses. With it gone 90% of the vital minerals, all the essential B vitamins, all the chromium that helps regulate blood sugar ironically, all the magnesium that effectively protects the heart. Then came aggressive industrial chemicals, calcium hydroxide to artificially lighten, phosphoric acid to adjust pH precisely, sulfuric acid in some specific processes, animal bone charcoal for industrial filtration. Even today, at this very moment, commercial refined sugar passes through a filter literally made from chemically charred cattle bones. You're literally eating processed animal bone waste. And then comes the final chemical bleaching, because ignorant consumers have been intentionally trained by marketing to think that white automatically means pure, white means clean, white means superior. But in scientific reality, the whiter the sugar, the more intensely processed it has been, the more industrial chemicals have been used, the less natural nutrition remains. The end result is a completely isolated molecule, pure sucrose at 99.9%. It is no longer real food. He's an industrial chemist. Chemical that your body absorbs so brutally fast that it causes a massive insulin spike comparable to the use of certain recreational drugs. In fact, fMRI studies at Princeton University in New Jersey have shown conclusively that refined sugar activates precisely the same brain areas as pure cocaine, same exact areas, with similarly addictive intensity, and it creates genuine chemical, scientifically measurable dependence. But it gets significantly worse, because without the minerals and vitamins that came naturally in traditional brown sugar, your body has to literally steal these essential nutrients from other places internally to metabolize pure sucrose. Every gram of refined sugar you consume steals calcium directly from your bones, magnesium from your muscles, B vitamins from your nervous system. You're not just consuming nutritionally empty calories, you are actively consuming negative calories. Calories that drain your body of vital resources. It needs to function normally. And the billion-dollar industry has known this perfectly for decades. Investigative researchers at the University of California, San Francisco meticulously analyzed confidential internal sugar industry documents from the 1960s. They discovered that major companies secretly paid respected scientists at Harvard University to publish research deliberately blaming saturated fat for heart disease, while hiding solid scientific evidence that refined sugar was the real deadly culprit. $50,000 in 1965. Equivalent to approximately $500,000 today, to actively manipulate science and deceive entire generations of Americans. And it worked absolutely perfectly. For a full 50 years, well-meaning Americans have diligently cut fat and drastically increased sugar. And what happened medically? Obesity has tripled nationally. Type 2 diabetes increased by 600%. Heart disease remained the leading cause of death. Meanwhile, traditional brown sugar was systematically marginalized as an exotic nature store product for paranoid people. The same compounds that medieval doctors used to save lives were arrogantly dismissed as undesirable impurities. Purity has become a corporate synonym for refining, when in scientific reality it is exactly the complete opposite. But now comes the great corporate betrayal, the part that should make you genuinely and legitimately furious. In 1977, the American food industry made a lucrative discovery that changed absolutely everything. They lose. They calculatedly knew that they could take cheap corn, generously subsidized by the federal government, and turn it into an artificial syrup sweeter than natural sugar, cheaper to produce industrially, and more chemically addictive. High fructose corn syrup was born. And in just 10 years, it was literally in everything you bought. Plain bread, plain tomato sauce, supposedly healthy yogurt, children's cereals, snacks, soft drinks, frozen food, even products aggressively sold as healthy and natural. They didn't honestly put on visible front labels. They purposely hid the list of ingredients in unreadable tiny letters, and Americans began consuming massive amounts without even knowing it consciously. Because this syrup had a genuinely diabolical property. It does not activate the leptin hormone that makes you feel adequately full and satisfied. You can eat and eat and eat without stopping and never feel completely satisfied. It was specifically designed for this. Internal corporate documents prove that industry scientists knew exactly what they were intentionally creating. A product that generates biological dependence, that never adequately satiates, that keeps you coming back compulsively for more. And best of all for them, it was so absurdly cheap to produce that the profits were obscenely high. Meanwhile, they saw medical statistics grow. They saw childhood obesity skyrocket to levels never seen before. They saw diabetes in 8-year-old children, something that was practically impossible before the 80s. They saw non-alcoholic fatty liver become a national epidemic, and they did absolutely nothing to stop it. Worse than that, they doubled the financial bet. They spent literally billions on marketing showing happy families eating their products, Olympic athletes endorsing sugary soft drinks, doctors in commercials saying sugar gives healthy energy, campaigns in public schools distributing free products to create consumers from an early age. And when independent science began to expose the truth in the 2000s, industry did exactly what it did in the 60s. Paid scientists again. He financed dubious studies. He created organizations with impressive scientific names that were actually just corporate lobbies in disguise. And the absolute worst, they see you desperately seeking health. They see you Googling how to cut sugar effectively. And what do they cynically do? They launch light, diet, zero, organic, and natural versions. They charge double or triple the price. But when you read the ingredients honestly, you discover that they only replaced refined sugar with artificial sweeteners that are proven to be even worse. Or they put coconut sugar, date sugar, agave nectar, all industrially processed in the same destructive way, all with the same metabolic effect on your body, but aggressively sold as healthy alternatives for 5 times the normal price. And there are sincere people buying because they want to do the right thing, because he wants to take care of his family, because you trust that when something says organic or natural on pretty packaging, it must genuinely be better. But 90% of the time, it's the same chemical thing with different marketing and an inflated price. The cruel irony is that today, we spend more than $50 billion a year in the United States alone on diabetes products. Synthetic insulin, digital meters, lancets, oral medications. The same industry that created the epidemic now profits obscenely from perpetual treatment. And they definitely don't want a permanent cure. They want clients who are dependent for life. That's why they keep bombarding you with constant propaganda. That's why they put sugar in products that absolutely don't need sugar. That's why they make huge packages with ridiculously small portions to make the nutritional numbers appear acceptable. A can of soda lists 2.5 servings. Who drinks 2/5 of a can and keeps the rest? Nobody. But this way, they can say that there are only 16 grams of sugar per serving, when in reality there's 40 in the entire can. And they continue because it works perfectly, because people don't read labels carefully, because even those who read it don't understand that dextrose, maltose, sucrose, glucose, fructose, rice syrup, tapioca syrup, maltodextrin are all sugar with different names. The industry uses 56 different names for sugar. 56. Specifically so, you don't realize how much you are consuming daily. The good news is that knowledge has not been lost. It was just buried. And you can start applying this to your life today. First, you need to understand the fundamental difference. Sugar that cures has color. The darker the better. Golden, brown, almost black. This means that the molasses it's there. It means the minerals have not been removed. It means it has undergone minimal processing. When you go to the supermarket, ignore everything that says light, refined, crystal white. Look for real brown sugar, but be careful. Many brands sell refined sugar painted with molasses. How to know the difference? Look at the ingredients. If it only lists sugar cane or evaporated cane juice, it's probably real. If it lists sugar plus molasses, it's fake. Second test, dissolve a spoonful in warm water. Real brown sugar will turn the water even brown. Fake sugar will show separation. with molasses sinking and white sugar floating. Third test, smell. Real brown sugar smells strong, sweet, complex, almost like caramel. Painted sugar has a weak or no smell. But here's the secret that medieval doctors knew and that you can use. Even the best brown sugar should be consumed in moderation and always with something else, never alone. Matteo applied sugar and honey. Why? Because honey has digestive enzymes, its own antibacterial properties, and slows down the absorption of sugar. When you eat something sweet, pair it with healthy fat or protein or fiber. A spoonful of brown sugar in coffee with full cream, acceptable. The fat in the cream slows down absorption. Fresh fruits are naturally sweet and compact with fiber that regulates how your body processes sugar. That's why our ancestors didn't get diabetes from eating fruit, but we developed diabetes from eating fruit juice, which removed all the fiber. Want to take a revealing test right now? Go into your kitchen and read the labels of 5 random products. Tomato sauce, sliced bread, yogurt, cereal, anything. I guarantee at least 4 of the 5 will have sugar in the first 5 ingredients, and probably under names you don't recognize like sugar. This shows you how much you are consuming without realizing it, how much the industry hides sugar in every meal to keep you addicted. But now you know. And knowledge is literally power when it comes to your health. Every time you choose real brown sugar over refined white powder, you are reclaiming wisdom that kept generations healthy when life was much harder. Every time you read a label and reject products full of hidden sugar, you are voting with your money against an industry that profits from your illness. Every time you explain this to someone you love, you are passing on knowledge that can literally save lives. This knowledge was not lost, it was just buried. And if this video opened your eyes to what the industry hides, press that thumbs up button below. This really helps the channel to continue bringing these truths that few have the courage to tell. And if you're not already subscribed, sign up now for Medieval Histories and turn on the notification bell, because every week we unearth more knowledge that they'd rather you never discovered. See you in the next video.